We begin with this Fox News alert. Some people in Washington, D.C. are very grateful for President Trump's mission to curb violent crime. But the resistance by their elected liberal leaders and some of their more liberal neighbors is quite toxic. In fact, some of that flex might be for cash. Protests are popping up around the district, despite the fact that federal officials have already arrested more than 100 people in the president's D.C. crackdown on violent crime. I'm Harris Faulkner. You are in the Faulkner Focus. Those protests are raising more and more questions, like who's organizing them? Because they are very organized, and they have those like pre-printed signs. Come on, we saw this before in all of the anti-Semitic rallying that was going on across Ivy League campuses in this country. It looks a lot like that. The New York Post is reporting that groups backed by, oh, maybe this is why, far-left billionaire George Soros and other dark money groups have funded the outrage to the tune of $20 million so far. The CEO of a crowd rental company says paid protester requests have surged 400% in D.C. since the president took over. So just in a few days, not took over as president, but took over in the crime wave, which was like Monday. Republican Congressman Byron Donalds in Focus with me yesterday.
We know that there's paid astroturf from the radical left. They do this all the time with a lot of their phony protests. When you talk to some of these people on the ground, they don't live in the jurisdictions. They tell you they're being paid. They're bussed in, and then when the issue's over, they leave. This is part of the astroturf of the Democratic left. We're far too familiar.
Some 400 National Guard troops were out on patrol on streets last night. Another 400 are expected to arrive by the weekend, so just in a day or so. And that'll reach that 800 originally that the president had talked about when he said he would do this. Under the home rule section, allowing the feds to take over, those men and women on the ground now in uniform have 27 days left to stay in D.C. However, the president is confident they may stay longer.
If it's a national emergency, we can do it without Congress, but we expect to be to Congress before Congress very quickly. And again, we think the Democrats will not do anything to stop crime, but we think the Republicans will do it almost unanimously. We're going to be asking for extensions on that, long-term extensions, because you can't have 30 days.
Alexandria Hoff is at the White House now. Alexandria.
Hi, Harris. We want to let you know, just in, D.C. has updated its policy on cooperation with federal law enforcement as it pertains to immigration. From what we've gathered so far from reading this executive order by the police chief, this mostly has to do with how information is shared and how some individuals are transported. We're going to dig into that. But, you know, D.C.'s police chief and even the mayor have acknowledged the opportunity they have here with an enhanced presence to really boost their arrest numbers, which they've seen happen. It's something that wasn't able to happen before, they said, simply because it's a numbers game. They now have more people out. They're able to scoop up the people that they have been looking for and seeking to arrest. Now, even though we're getting this kind of, it's somewhat support from local officials here, you have Democrats at large just pushing back. Like, this is the worst thing in the world. You have Senator Chuck Schumer brushing off any idea of prolonging federalized D.C. police force. Listen.
If he went to Congress and said, you know what, there's this crime emergency, we need the National Guard out there longer, we need to take over Washington, D.C., would you grant it?
No way. We'll fight him tooth and nail.
All right, he was pretty clear there. Opponents have also seen this as an opportunity to renew calls for locals to have more control by turning D.C. into a state, a ridiculous notion, according to the president.
We want to straighten the place out. Statehood's ridiculous. It's unacceptable. It's the Democrats want it because the Democrats have, about 95% in this little area. Even I didn't get it very much. They want that. They want to pick up 2 senators, and it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
A D.C. resident found out what happens when you take qualms too far. According to police, a 37-year-old verbally assaulted law enforcement before chucking a sub, some call it a hoagie, whatever you might call it, at a Customs and Border Protection officer. Here is U.S. Attorney Janine Pirro.
He thought it was funny. Well, he doesn't think it's funny today because we charged him with a felony, assault on a police officer. So there, stick your Subway sandwich somewhere else.
All right, she's also very clear when she speaks here. the U.S. Attorney Bureau, she brought up a saying that you've heard from the president: if you spit, we hit. That pertains to how police officers and federal agents are treated out in the streets. But it is worth reminding people that spitting, that's considered assault as well. Harris.
That's a very good point. Alexandria, thank you very much. Republican Congressman Andy Biggs of Arizona, member of the Judiciary and Oversight Committees. He is also a candidate for Arizona governor. Great to have you today. Let's start with the paid protest, because from the George Soros groups, this is nothing new. But I pointed something out months ago when his son Alexander Soros was taking over. He's much farther left, if you can even be that, than his father.
Yeah, you're right, Harris. And they have so much money, and now that they're even further left, you're going to see this happen more and more often. We've seen it even in my home state, your great state of Arizona. But we're seeing this in D.C. Look at what they're doing. They're fighting against bringing safety, public safety, to the city of the District of Columbia. Just think about that. And that's how radical they are, but they've got the resources to do it, and they're bringing in people who, they're just rent-a protesters. That's what they're doing for a living.
We have a lot of investigation and journalism to do on exactly where the money comes from, which groups are actually participating, and all of that. I go by what some of the signage looks like, but we are digging into this. So we're working to figure out who's actually out there. Meanwhile, critics are calling out how Democrats have responded to the president's D.C. crackdown. One op-ed with this: Democrats prove once again that they are the stupid party. The Washington Examiner editorial board with the headline, Democrats fall into Trump's D.C. takeover trap. Even some of the legacy media are admitting, yeah, there's a problem.
You don't brag about a rising murder rate. And the Democrats are, I agree with you, Mika, they're falling into the trap of defending what's indefensible.
It's a trap. Yes, it's a trap.
Look, I mean, she's not there is a crime problem everywhere. I mean, in multiple cities. Big cities have traditionally had crime problems.
Even they can't agree. And by the way, what is the trap? Helping people?
Yeah. You know, Harris, I just get a kick out of that because they think it's a trap. They doubt the sincerity of President Trump, but President Trump gets it. D.C. is crime-ridden, and it's dangerous. We've had people murdered that work on Capitol Hill. Neighborhoods are not safe. People don't want to go out. But the bottom line is, it's not a trap. The only trap that they get is that Donald Trump is in their mind. The reality is we've got to bring safety to the city, and I think Donald Trump's doing it fantastically.
Look, the politicians are one thing. A few people in media say, yeah, there is a problem, but that's as far as they'll go. But what about the people who live there? I think this is an interesting take. It's about the tragic impacts of out of control crime in the nation's capital. Let's watch together.
Well, my husband first. It was the 1st of January of 2021. He was trying to help an elderly man, and he was stabbed to death. My son, somebody came up behind him and shot him 8 times, twice in the head, 6 times in the body, and he's a paraplegic now. We were advocating then for the National Guard to come out, but they said there was no need. But think about how many lives could have been saved just having them on the scene.
Imagine all of that from one person. Tempe Satcher, whose son BJ was gunned down in D.C. 2 years ago, also shared her thoughts on Trump's crackdown right now.
Just today, a young lady was shot over on 15th Street in Northeast D.C. Does that seem like crime gone down? But with all the things that are going on with our president, you know, sending the National Guards out, I don't have a problem with that personally, because if MPD can't do it and they need help, then I'm glad they're able to get the help.
Common sense through heartbreak. I mean, some of these people have suffered things on their own. She was saying what had happened to another woman. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it's terrible. It's tragic. And that's why the police union supports what President Trump's done. It's the leaders of D.C. that have betrayed the people. They've allowed this to go on. They haven't prosecuted crimes. The Metropolitan Police can't make all the arrests they need to make because they haven't received support from the D.C. Council and D.C. Mayor. And what President Trump's doing is he's giving them a pause here and giving them support. And that's why I'm introducing legislation, Harris, to extend this for another 6 months, because it's going to take a good long while to bring this the district under a safer situation. But the National Guard has to be there because we're seeing this all over the district. There's danger, there's violence, and as the last person said, it just doesn't seem to get any better. In fact, it gets worse.
Yeah, real quickly, the president has said what he thinks he can do without Congress. Very short answer, but what would that be?
He thinks he can extend it under emergency order.
And can he?
Technically, he can. I think it's better if he does it through Congress because that makes it actually secure and codified.
All right. Congressman, always great to have you. Thank you.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kayleigh McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.